we are going to wrap up our 5-part series on the virtues of manhood right now. And we're going to talk about the virtue of manhood that every man really needs, and that is covenant. What is it? We'll get right into it right after this.
Are you ready to live life to the full? Are you ready to rise up and live a life of honor? Are you ready to boldly step into a life of courage? This is the Manlihood ManCast. And here's your host, Josh Hatcher.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Manlihood ManCast. I am glad that you are taking the time to tune in to what we're doing here today at Manlihood, and I appreciate you more than you can know. I truly believe that you are a man who has virtue, who has courage, who has potential. And if there are things in your life that are holding you back, I want to see you lay those things down and level up. Become the kind of man you were meant to be, and not just the kind of man that gets caricatured in the media. Not the kind of man that is known as a bully or the kind of man that is described as toxic. I want to see you become the kind of man that is known for his leadership, for his loyalty, for his love, for his virtue. And if you want help in doing that, the Manlihood Man Cave is what we've got for you right now. It's a great place on Facebook where you can connect with other men and you can learn from each other. You can encourage each other. You can be poured into. If you need advice, these guys are here to do that. I've got an amazing community there at the Manlihood Man Cave on Facebook, so I want you to join it and get plugged in with men that want to see you grow, that want to see you level up, that want to see you become the man of your dreams. Let's do it. Let's get into today's podcast, guys. We've been talking about the virtues of manhood. And I really do believe this, guys. We talk a lot about, in our culture, we talk a lot about what it means to be a man. And a lot of people don't feel like they're a man, or they don't feel like they're man enough. And I get that. And I do believe that one of the ways that you can become a better man is to truly know and understand what virtue is and what your virtues are. It's to be a man of character, to be a man of honor. We've talked about many of these virtues over the past 5 or 6 weeks, where we've really dug in and wrapped our heads around what it means to be a man, what it means to be a good man, what it means to have virtue as a part of your character. Today's virtue is covenant. And I know that this is an old word and we don't hear it much. We don't hear it much outside of religion. We don't hear it much outside of maybe even a legal court proceeding, although a lot of times the words used there have kind of morphed and kind of become a little different. Sometimes it still is called a covenant. You probably know and understand this concept. The closest thing to it is the concept of a contract, where you sign a contract and you say, I am making a sole promise to do what is expected of me, a promissory note or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to pay back this loan. I'm going to be married to this person. And honestly, covenant is often used in that concept of a marriage between a husband and a wife. But it also talks about many other things. And we're going to talk about the covenants that if you truly try to fulfill, you will become a better man. You will become the kind of man that you need to be. So the idea of a covenant is that it is a sacred promise. It's a promise built on more than just your word. It's a promise built on your character. I believe that it's a spiritual covenant. So it's sacred, it's spiritual, it's permanent, it's lifelong. It's you saying, I will do this no matter what. This is who I am. It's a covenant. It's a promise that becomes a part of your identity. A part of your identity to fulfill this covenant. So let's talk for a little bit about what are some covenants that men need to embrace and enter into. One of those covenants I believe that a man has to keep is the covenant of fatherhood. This is one that is lacking sorely in our culture. So many men pump and dump. They give their seed to a woman and she makes a baby, and then they are not involved in that child's life. They aren't ready to be a father. I'm going to tell you something. Fathers, dads, sperm donors, nobody's ready ever to be a father. You become a father. And you can choose to make a child, and then you can choose to not be a father to that child. Don't do it. Don't. When you give a woman your seed, be prepared. It may mean that she is going to make a baby with it. You are investing it. So, if you're not ready to become a father, don't give a woman your seed. That's the first thing. Because that's a covenant. You're planting it. And you might say, well, I tried to use protection and it just didn't. No. If you're going to plant a seed, that seed might grow. We know that no form of birth control is 100%. So you might form a baby. You might make a child. You might become a father. And you need to embrace every bit of that responsibility that comes along with that. And I'm telling you, it's a lifelong responsibility. The first part of that covenant is, yes, I choose to raise this child until this child is an adult, and then allow that child to make their own decisions. That child is no longer a child, but it's an adult. You can call it your child because you made it, but now it's an adult. Your job is at least 18 years, but it goes on beyond that because you still have a responsibility to love that adult, to guide that adult, to be a good friend to that adult as a parent. But it's a lifelong commitment. It's not one that you get to just skimp out on because you're not ready. And so if you don't think you're ready, then you need to just keep your Snickers in your knickers. When a child comes along, it's time to man up. It's time to take responsibility. You might say, well, I would be a horrible father, and I don't want to raise my kid to follow in my footsteps. Then start walking in the right path so that your child can walk your footsteps. If you need help, get help. If you don't know what it looks like, then find somebody that can show you what it looks like to be a good father. But don't make excuses. Don't leave that kid to suffer. And if you have left a kid to suffer, you need to do what you can to make amends and make it right. And your kid might not want anything to do with you. That might happen based on your previous performance. You know, you may have a kid that you have sired that for whatever reason you have a break and that child may not want you in their life. You can't force them to want you, but you can do your job. I know a young man who has, well, he's older than me, but I probably shouldn't call him a young man. I know a man who has some kids that don't want him in their life. And it is torture for him. He wants to be involved in their life and they don't want him. And I have encouraged him to do this. I've encouraged him to write the letters. If you can't talk to them because they won't talk to you on the phone, write letters. If you think that they're just not, that the mother isn't going to give the kid the letters or the kids aren't going to read the letters, make a copy of the letters and you keep them. But you send them the letters and not just a text message, not just an email, like write out a letter and tell that kid that you love them, that you're sorry if you made mistakes. You tell them that you care about them. You tell them that you want to be involved in their life, and you tell them as often as you can, and you keep writing letters. You make sure that you pay your child support because, yes, it sucks to have to pay child support. But you know what sucks worse? Being a kid whose dad doesn't want to provide for him. So fatherhood is a covenant. You need to embrace it. And if you are a good dad who's trying his best and struggling, keep trying, keep struggling, keep pushing. Get people in your life that can show you what it means to be a good father. If you had a good father, you have a good example. If you don't have a good father, find a good example. Spend time with him. Learn. Learn. Because this is a covenant you need to fulfill. Another covenant that I believe is important for us as men, that we need to honor, that we need to live by, is the covenant of brotherhood. Now, a brotherhood in your life may not be as permanent as a child is in your life. You are going to have people come in your life at different times who are in your life for a season and then they're not. That's the way friendships work, okay? And you need to be prepared for that. People are going to kind of move in and out. That's okay. But in that brotherhood, you will have the opportunity to grow and to be shaped. You make the commitment to brotherhood, okay, to brotherhood itself. You make the commitment to say, I will have men in my life who can challenge me, encourage me, and call me on my crap. If you don't make that commitment, no one will challenge you, encourage you, and call you on your crap. So the commitment and the covenant to brotherhood is not necessarily to a brother. It is to the concept of brotherhood and making sure that you have people in your life, knowing that those people may change over the course of time. They may not be the same people, because you may grow faster and you might need somebody who is at a different level to hold you up, to pick you up. You might burn a bridge, or someone else might burn a bridge in your brotherhood. So your brotherhood, the people in it may have flexibility, but you make the covenant to brotherhood. You make the covenant to grow as a man by having people in your life who will challenge you, encourage you, and call you on your crap. This is another sacred covenant that for whatever reason our culture has ignored. Our culture has defiled, to be honest with you, and that is the covenant of marriage. Marriage is a promise to stay with a person for life. Now, I get it. Some of you might say, listen, my marriage fell apart. It wasn't working. Or the woman that I picked has treated me like dung and we couldn't make it work. I am not saying that you are a horrible person because you broke this covenant. I want to make that very clear. Sometimes crap happens. But I want you to, going forward, look at marriage not as a temporary thing, but as a permanent thing. And I want you to find someone who you can work through those hardships with. Now, some of you have never been married and you're looking at marriage and you're like, I don't know. Or you're not looking at marriage. You're like, I don't want anything to do with marriage because everybody I know that's married has a miserable marriage. So again, get people in your life who can set good examples for you so that you can see what marriage is supposed to look like. But it is a covenant that you make for life. And it is not always easy. It is not always fun. Sometimes it's hard work. Sometimes you have to put up with crap that you don't want to put up with. But I'm going to tell you this, after more than 20 years of being married to my wife, our marriage has grown and we have been through some hard crap. Most of the hard crap was my own fault. Some of the hard crap was hers, but most of it was mine. And now it is richer. It is bolder. It is amazing. It started out good, and then we had hard times. But what happened is we stuck it through because we made a commitment to make it work. And part of that commitment to making it work means that I have to become a better man. Because if I don't, our marriage will only go so far. And then it will run into my limitations. She should also make the commitment to become a better woman, because if she doesn't, then the marriage will run into her limitations. So both of you have to commit to grow and become better and to care for each other. Marriage is a sacred and holy covenant. It means more than just two people who love each other and want to have sex and make babies. There's more to it than that. It is a holy, a deep, a rich thing that changes your life because two people become one person. It's two people becoming one person. Yes, you're still two people, but there's a oneness in marriage. And if you don't make it work and if you let go of it, then it's one person getting ripped back into two people, and it's painful and it's hard. And some of you guys have been there and you know what I'm talking about. So I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to guilt trip anybody whose marriage fell apart. But I do want to tell you, before you enter marriage, make sure you understand the gravity of it, the heaviness of it, the weight of it, the glory of it, and then commit to stick it through. And then when hard times come, get the help you need before it gets bad. Don't wait till it's falling apart to work on your marriage. Work on it before it gets bad. Learn her, study her, know her. And then you commit that as far as it depends on you, that you're going to make it work. If she doesn't, it's not a whole lot you can do. It takes two people to make it work. But as far as it depends on you, you do what you can to make it work. Which honestly, that whole conversation brings me to the next covenant that I believe that a man should make. And that is the covenant of personal development. Because you need to make a covenant with yourself, a holy, sacred, binding contract with yourself that says, I am going to grow. I am going to learn. I am going to invest in my mind, in my emotions, in my body, and I'm going to try to become the best version of myself that I can. When you make that commitment and then you follow it up with action because it's a covenant, you will become unstoppable. The things that you want to see happen in your life will happen in your life. Good things come from people who make that kind of commitment. The people that don't are the people that are unsatisfied for most of their life. Make the covenant to yourself. I will commit to grow. I will commit to be better, to learn more, to know more. And yes, you will be patient with yourself when you screw up, because we're all going to screw up. We're all going to fall a little bit, just like in our marriage, just like in our friendships, just like in our parenting. We're going to screw up. So have that determination that says, I screwed up, I'm going to get up, and I'm going to keep moving forward and keep growing and keep learning. That matters. Make that covenant with yourself to grow. Another covenant that is almost forced upon us, but I do believe it matters, is the covenant of citizenship. The covenant of citizenship, where you have a responsibility to honor your country. I see across the world this situation kind of brewing where a country's government falls apart and maybe falls into war, or natural disasters occur, and then the people, for whatever reason, the men especially, leave it. They give up on it. They let it go, and then they become a refugee and they leave. Now, I'm not saying that every refugee situation is like this, but it makes me question and makes me wonder, why not stay and devote your life into making your country better? Why not stay and clean up after the natural disaster? Why not stay and fight for the freedom of your people? I think that our concept globally of citizenship maybe has some weaknesses. I think even in America, we like to complain about things, but do we actually do anything to make it better? Do we? Do we? No, we complain and we turn into keyboard warriors and we call politicians names. But what do we do to actually make things better for our life and the lives of our community and the lives of our region and the lives of our country and the lives of our world? What are you doing to make it better? I don't think that you necessarily have to run for office to do it. I don't think that you even have to be involved politically to do it. I think that to make things better, we have to commit to make things better around us, to be a good citizen, and not just run from trouble. We may have to fight to do this. We may have to kill. We may have to die. More than likely, it might just be as simple as showing acts of kindness and taking care of your own fields and making sure that you have enough to provide for your families. You have enough to help your neighbors. That makes a difference. That is good citizenship. And there is a sacred covenant between a land and its people. And I believe that we have a responsibility to honor that covenant, to honor that contract that says you get to live here and you get to be free, but you've got to fight to protect it. You've got to care for the people around you. You've got to care for yourself, provide for your family. I think that really matters. And I think that's lacking and that's missing in our world today. Guys, I do appreciate you listening to this whole series of podcasts about the virtues of manhood. I want to see you become the man that you can be, the man that I believe that you are inside. I believe that in you is a strong man, a brave man, a courageous man, a man of honor, a man of covenant, a man who keeps his promises, a man of courage. I believe these things about you. I know they're true. Now, you might look at yourself and say, I don't believe that about me. Then choose it, because the potential is there for you to be great. The potential is there for me to be great. Are we going to do it, or are we going to sit back and just let life happen? Let's step into it, guys. Let's be who we are meant to be. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you listening to this week's podcast. I love you. I care about you. And I'll see you next time.
If you want to be a better man, check out our website, manlihood.com, for blogs, videos, and more from our Manlihood team. And you can also join our private Facebook group, Manlihood ManCave, where you can meet up with a band of brothers who will challenge you and help you on your journey of manhood. This episode is produced by Hatcher Media for manlihood.com. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to the show. Tune in again for more of the Manlihood ManCast.